Yesterday, the Senate Minority Leader, Senator from New York, Chuck Schumer, went on the Senate floor where he said that the Democrats are going to oppose the continuous resolution bill that was passed by the House Republican, and that is now the Senate. But today, the Minority Leader Chuck Schumer reversed his position, explaining that if there's a government shutdown, it's only going to give President Trump and his administration more power. So he believes that Democrats have to vote for this continuous resolution to avoid giving all the powers to President Trump and to the Department of Government Efficiency, the DOGE, led by Elon Musk. He explained all this in the following clip. Play the clip.
As I announced yesterday, I will vote to keep the government open. I believe it is the best way to minimize the harm that the Trump administration will do to the American people. Clearly, this is a Hobson's choice. The CR is a bad bill. But as bad as the CR is, I believe allowing Donald Trump to take even much more power via a government shutdown is a far worse option. A shutdown would allow DOGE to shift into overdrive. Let me repeat, a shutdown will allow DOGE to shift into overdrive. It would give Donald Trump and DOGE the keys to the city, state, and country. Donald Trump and Elon Musk would be free to destroy vital government services at a much faster rate than they can right now, and over a much broader field of destruction that they would render. In a shutdown, Donald Trump and DOGE will have the power to determine what is considered essential and what is not. And their views on what is not essential would be mean and vicious, and would decimate vital services and cause unimaginable harm to the American people. Making matters even worse, in a shutdown, there is no check on their determinations, Trump and DOGE's determinations on what is essential and what is not. In fact, on February the 26th, OMB, led by Russell Vought, told agencies to work with DOGE to create a list of non-essential workers so that they could reduce staffing even faster in a shutdown. They're already preparing for a shutdown. Musk has told everybody he wants a shutdown because he knows it will help him achieve his horrible goal of just decimating the federal government from one end to the other. In other words, if government were to shut down, DOGE has a plan in place to exploit the crisis for maximum destruction. In a shutdown, American families would be hurt in ways they almost have never been. It could disrupt regional Veterans Affairs offices, curtail mental health services, accelerate plans to slash stash at Social Security offices. The list goes on and on and on of the damage, the severe damage they could do, virtually unchecked. And they can stay in a shutdown as long as they want. There is no off-ramp unless they decide to take that off-ramp, and they won't, because this is their best tool for achieving their goal: slash government, slash spending, and use that money for tax breaks for billionaires. So a shutdown would be the best distraction Donald Trump could ask for. So distraction from his awful agenda. Donald Trump owns the chaos in government. He owns the chaos in the stock market. He owns the damage happening to the economy. But he knows if government shuts down and all the fighting is over which agencies should be kept and which shouldn't, and Republican senators and congressmen and just obeisance to Trump keep putting bills on the floor to decide that, it will totally distract from the most important fight of all: fighting Republicans for eviscerating Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid while giving trillions in tax cuts for the ultra-rich. That is the fight. That is the fight American people must know about. A shutdown will be a costly distraction from this all-important fight. Finally, I want to close by reminding everyone it was Republicans who pushed this false shutdown choice. Their inability to govern has led us to this precipice. Our caucus members have been torn between two awful alternatives, and my colleagues and I have wrestled with which alternative would be worse for the American people. Different senators come down on different sides of this question, but that does not mean that any Senate Democrat supports a shutdown. Whatever the outcome, our caucus will be united in our determination to continue the long-term fight to stop Donald Trump's dangerous war on our democracy and on America's working families.
So we all know that yesterday, Senator Chuck Schumer, the minority leader in the Senate, said that the Democrats were not going to vote for the continuing resolution bill that was brought forward, that was passed by the House Republican. But today, Senator Chuck Schumer reversed his position and said he's going to vote for this bill because he believes not voting for this bill will lead to a government shutdown. If there's a government shutdown, he believes President Trump will have more power to do whatever he wants to do and to disseminate the government as much as he wants with his Department of Government Efficiency. So he said he's going to vote for this bill. So after that, Senator Ron Johnson was interviewed and asked about the potential trap in which the Democrats were going to fall if they didn't avoid the government shutdown. And he had this to say. Play the clip.
Mr. Senator, if Schumer had voted to shut down the government, he'd get the blame, and Trump would have more power to run the government as he sees fit. Schumer was in a trap. I don't think we've seen that before.
Well, first of all, I understand what legitimate beef would they have to actually vote no against this. A continuing resolution just continues spending at the previous year's level. So who's in charge the previous year? Well, that was Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer. So this is their spending level. This is how they've appropriated between the accounts. So other than tweaking almost $1 trillion bill, it's 900 billion some, by a few billion up or down, it's basically their spending scheme. So, I mean, what legitimate excuse would they have to say, we just can't tolerate this one? So, yeah, in this case, I agree with Senator Schumer. I don't like shutdowns. It costs the government a whole lot more. It's not fair to the people who work for the government. And I think it would have given the president an awful lot more power. I could see the White House just sitting there, make my day, shut it down, give me even more power to, start reducing the size, scope, and cost of government.
Today, the Commerce Secretary was on Fox News, where he had an interview with one of the anchors there, and where they talk about the policies of the president, especially the inflation. The president promised during his campaign that he was going to reduce inflation from day one. And also he was going to balance the budget. And during this discussion, they also touched on a very important point, that of taxes. According to the Commerce Secretary, if President Trump is successful in balancing the budget, which he thinks they can do in 2 years or maximum 3 years, all the citizens making less than $150,000 per year are going to have to pay, will not pay any tax. So it was very interesting exchange. Play the clip.
But on the way, we're going to cut no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security.
So when should Americans expect a balanced budget by? What is the goal on that, Howard?
I love that question. Think about it. Our objective is during President Trump's term, over the next 4 years, we are going to try to balance the budget. Now, obviously, the sooner we balance that budget, the more we can all enjoy the possibilities that exist under Donald Trump's presidency. He would like to replace the Internal Revenue Service with the External Revenue Service and let all those countries who just lean on our economy. 4 years,
you're saying it could take as long as 4 years, but
oh no, I don't want it to take 4 years.
Okay.
We want it to take 3. We want it to take 3, and obviously aspirationally, I'd really like it to take 2, so that he has the last 2 years to hammer away, get rid of the Internal Revenue Service, and start to replace it with the External Revenue Service.
No taxes for people under $150,000. So you're saying that could happen in the next 2 years. So I'm just looking at the numbers here. The bottom 90% of the U.S. tax base is people under around $150,000. That's the way they lay it out. That is $531 billion in federal taxes. It's a quarter of all federal tax revenue. So you're saying in 2 years we could be in a position where people who make under $150K will pay no taxes in America?
Well, this is aspirational, right? When we balance the budget, that is a move that the president has on his mind and that he has discussed. Balance the budget, and then let's take care of all of the people. Like you said, the 90% of Americans who are 150,000 or less. That's why they elected Donald Trump. That's why you've got Elon Musk and Doge. You know, everybody forgets why if you take $1 trillion out of the waste, fraud, and abuse of our systems, and then you have the tariffs leading, what Donald Trump is leading with, and then you produce drill, baby, drill, right? And then you have the Trump card probably raising between $500 billion and $1 trillion a year. You've got a balanced budget. You've got a fundamental change of America.
The Trump gold card so far, Howard? How many people?
Well, we're going to announce over the next 2 weeks a pilot program, which is going to help Congress be able to score that in and help this reconciliation bill. But we expect tens of thousands. I mean, just the inquiries I've had, tens of thousands of applications at $5 million each. We are working our tails off to balance the budget for the American people and for Donald Trump. That's why they elected Donald Trump, and he is working really hard at it.
You say the goal is in the first 2 years. That would be when the midterm comes up. So that would be a pretty big deal. Let me ask you about this. I want to play this because Doug Ford and you are about to meet, correct? The premier from Ontario. A lot of heated conversation going back and forth. I should point
Doug
out
Ford
to
is
people
coming and the Minister of Finance is coming.
Okay,
so
great.
the central government is coming as well.
So Doug Ford was always a big Trump fan. But now he's saying that, you know, he feels that the United States has turned the guns on their closest ally. He says it's so disappointing. I'm sure you're going to hear some of this in a few minutes from him, that the U.S. is attacking the families of Canada, the food on their tables. But here.
So yesterday, the Vice President, J.D. Vance, had an interview with Laura Ingraham of Fox News. During this interview, they touched on several topics. One of the main topics they touched on was the problem of immigration. The Vice President J.D. Vance explained the current situation in respect to illegal immigration and also the deportation efforts by the administration, the challenges that they are facing, and they also touch on the green card holders in respect to the students of Columbia University. And Laura Ingraham, during this exchange, brought back the same question she asked the day before to Senator Kennedy, where she asked him about the fact that currently there are more than 1.1 million international students in the U.S. studying. And she thinks it's not a good thing because the American student will have to compete with these international students. The exchange was very interesting. Please, let's watch.
So President Trump and you both campaigned on an issue near and dear to my heart, which is immigration and deporting millions of people, not thousands of people, but millions of people who came under Biden. About 12 million people. We kind of lost track.
On day one of my administration, the invasion of illegal migrants, terrorists, drug dealers, and murderers ends. And on that same day, the largest deportation in our history begins. We have no choice.
But according to Reuters, in the first month in office, I think you guys have been able to deport about 37,600 people, which is not a small number. But to really get those numbers up, it would have to be about 60,000 a week to hit that 12 million mark. You run out of beds. You have like 47,000 people in detention, but you've run out of beds. What next?
Well, first of all, we have to do this sequentially, Laura. So what the president said on the campaign is the very first and most important thing is to secure the borders. You know, we have 20 million, maybe more illegal aliens in this country right now. We have to stop that number from growing. And by the way, in 6 weeks, we've almost accomplished complete border security. You've had places that had 1,500 illegal encounters a day. Now they're at 30 illegal encounters a day. We've cut illegal border crossings by well over 95%. And frankly, I think those numbers are going to continue to come down. So once you get operative control of the border, now you have to ramp up deportations. And Laura, this is another area where Joe Biden has left us with a hole that we have to dig out of. You have immigration detention facilities that were underfunded. You have ICE, which does most of the actual actual deportations that was radically underfunded, really sort of in some ways destroyed by the Biden administration. We're building that capacity up. I do think that you're going to see those deportation numbers rise. And again, the president every single day in private and in public is asking, how do we get those deportation numbers?
Yeah, he wants them up. He's impatient. He's like I am. He's very impatient.
It's good to have a leader who's impatient to get things done, because it has all of us in his government actually asking ourselves what we can do. One more point on this, because look, some of this we can do, of course, through old-fashioned deportations, but Mitt Romney, of all people, used this term in the 2020 or the 2012 campaign, self-deportation. I think Kristi Noem deserves a lot of credit for this, and Tom Homan, because that CBP-1 app, do you remember that? It actually facilitated illegal entry under the Biden administration. We're repurposing it to facilitate self-deportation. So what we're going to encourage a lot of people to do is, we don't have to come and knock on your door and send you home. We're going to do that, of course. But before that happens, why don't you get on a plane and go home yourself? So it's an all of the above approach. We're going to use everything that we can. But Laura, I think those deportation numbers are going to come up. You've already started to see some real progress. We're going to make more.
There's controversy over the decision to try to deport that former Columbia student, Mahmoud Khalil, over national security concerns that were determined to be in place by Marco Rubio. Are you at all worried that a future Democrat administration would use that same provision to try to deport conservative students studying here in the United States?
Well, if it was an American citizen, it would be a different conversation. If a Democrat tried to do that to an American citizen, of course,
talking about green card
that would be a problem. But Laura, a green card holder, even if I might like that green card holder, doesn't have an indefinite right to be in the United States of America, right? American citizens have different rights from people who have green cards, from people who have student visas. And so my attitude on this is, this is not fundamentally about free speech. And to me, yes, it's about national security, but it's also more importantly about who do we, as an American public, decide gets to join our national community? And if the Secretary of State and the President decide this person shouldn't be in America and they have no legal right to stay here, it's as simple as that.
Do you see more such deportations happening?
I think we'll certainly see some people who get deported on student visas if we determine that it's not in the best interest of the United States to have them in our country. So yeah, I don't know how high that number is going to be, but you're going to see more people.
We have 1.1 million foreign students studying in the United States. Do you think it's truly an America First approach when U.S. universities that get billions in total from the federal taxpayer rely so heavily on foreign students, including foreign students from adversary countries like China? I
think it's a real problem, and it's something that we're certainly looking at, Laura. To your point, a lot of these foreign students, most of them pay full freight. And so sometimes what you have at an elite university, right, like a Columbia or a Harvard, you have a well-qualified middle-class American kid from the heartland who doesn't get a spot in these universities because some Chinese oligarch who's paying $100,000 a year takes up that spot. So it's not just bad for national security, it's bad for the American dream for a lot of kids who want to go to a nice university and can't because their spot was taken by a foreign student. It's certainly something we're looking at.
A Republican Congressman, Chuck Edwards, went back to his home district yesterday and held a town hall. However, during this town hall, there was a tense exchange between him and one of the people in the hall, a veteran who was angry over the action of the Department of Government Efficiency led by Elon Musk. Please, let's watch this exchange, play the clip.
Why are people losing their jobs at record numbers?
You're lying. I'm a veteran and you don't give a about me.
This morning, Judge Luttig, a very highly respected judge from both sides by both Republicans and Democrats, was on MSNBC where he was interviewed about the actions of the Trump administration towards some big law firms across the nation right now. He said that the Trump administration has declared war on the rule of law. His explanation were very interesting. Let's watch, play the clip.
The targeting of law firms is such an affront and such a danger to the rule of law. Nicole, even before the president assumed office, he had essentially declared war on the rule of law. And in the first 50 days of his administration, he has opened that war on multiple fronts across the country, as your viewers know. In the past several weeks, however, he's really launched a full frontal assault on the Constitution, the rule of law, our system of justice, and the entire legal profession. The 1.2 million lawyers in this country are the trustees, if you will, of the rule of law, with the federal judiciary being the constitutional guardian of the rule of law. In these latest executive orders by the president, executive orders that targeted two of the most prestigious law firms in America, Perkins Coie and Covington and Burling, targeting them, as you said, because they had represented clients in the past who the president just didn't like, is one of the most sinister of the executive orders that the president has entered to date, of the many that we expect him to enter in the coming days. And he followed these executive orders with an interview on Fox News, I believe, where he said that he is going to go after a large number of other law firms across the country, and we can expect him to make good on that promise. But it's the fact that he is doing this, in retaliation and retribution for these firms representing the clients that they have, is what makes these executive orders so sinister. Americans need to understand that the President of the United States is constitutionally charged with the faithful execution of the laws. And the President of the United States, has no authority whatsoever under the Constitution of the United States to issue executive orders targeting anyone, any individual, any organization, any group, and certainly not individual law firms and lawyers, because he doesn't like them.
Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse was invited today on Today show, where he was asked several questions in respect to the two astronauts that are stranded in space since 8 months. The exchange was very interesting. Please, let's listen. Play the clip.
They have a long history of going into space before this mission where they were, quote, stranded.
Yes.
And what does it mean to be stranded when you have this huge space station, half a dozen other people there, food, water, except the water is like filtered pee. So,
that's
no,
fine.
but it's fine.
It's fine. Well, it's fine for 10 days, but not 90.
They're not stranded in the sense that there was no way they could get home. They just they scheduled it for 9 months. They were supposed to be up there 6 days.
Yeah, just a few days. So maybe they needed some extra underwear, but that's it. And the rest of their lives was just hanging out in space.
There's no sympathy for Rich and Sonny here.
No, if I'm an astronaut and you're stuck in space, I'm an astronaut. That's what I want to be. So why is everyone worried that they're stranded?
Okay,
do they look sad? No,
they don't look sad.
Butch has a daughter who's a senior in high school. He's missing a lot.
He has Mr. Senior.
Didn't have Christmas.
They can't walk.
Well, they're floating.
Yeah.
When they come back, there's some adjustments you have to make.
What do they have to do?
No, so one of my favorite stories I heard from one of my astronaut friends is you give them something to drink, when they get back to Earth, they just let go of it, and it drops and breaks.
Wow.
They just forget to like find a place to set it down.
This is
With the hazards of being in space a long time, you know.
Well, how long will it take them to readjust?
From what I've in my conversations with them, just a few days. It's not that bad.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Today, the new Prime Minister of Canada was sworn in, Mark Carney. After this ceremony, he had a press conference in which he talked about the current trade war that's going on between his country and the US. He explained that he's willing to work with President Trump and that he believes that a good relationship between the two countries will lead to development of the two countries. Play the clip.
His heirs and successors. I, Mark Carney, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I shall be a true and faithful servant to His Majesty King Charles III as a member of His Majesty's Privy Council for Canada. I will, in all things, to be treated, debated, and resolved in Privy Council, faithfully, honestly, and truly declare my mind and my opinion. I shall keep secret all matters committed and revealed to me in this capacity, or that shall be secretly treated of in council. Generally, in all things I shall do as a faithful and true servant ought to do for His Majesty. I, Mark Carney, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will truly and faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trust reposed in me as Prime Minister.
You've talked about Trump needing to show Canada respect.
President Trump.
President Trump, yes, President Trump needing to show Canada respect. You said that again just now. Are you not going to speak with President Trump until he cuts out this 51st state talk?
No. I look forward to speaking with President Trump, just to be clear. We respect the United States. We respect President Trump. President Trump has put some very important issues at the top of his agenda. We understand his agenda. We understand the importance of addressing the scourge of fentanyl, which is a challenge here in Canada as well as the United States. And I would say that the measures that have been put in place in recent weeks in Canada and Mexico, also the United States, means that we are making tremendous progress. I'll speak specifically for Canada against fentanyl. We understand the importance President Trump places on American workers and American jobs. We want him and his administration to understand the importance we put on Canadian workers and Canadian jobs. And we will look for avenues to work together so that both objectives are met in terms of both our great economies, just as we are doing, and the people behind me have led this, just as we are doing with respect to the scourge of fentanyl.
There you go, folks. On the Action Speak Network, we give you the news as it is. You all have your own personal opinions. Please drop them in the comment section. I'm going to check them out. We will check them out. Please hit subscribe. Let's get to 1,000. I'm out.